Mass shootings shocked the nation last year, grabbing plenty of headlines. But our next guest says we need to look beyond the headlines and even some of the issues under consideration right now and talk about the overwhelming impact of gun violence in minority communities. Fox News political analyst Juan Williams has a column on race and the gun debate in today's Wall Street Journal. I hope a lot of people read it, Juan, because it really does make you think. We talk about maybe banning assault weapons. We talk about banning high-capacity magazines and large-capacity weaponry and so forth. But you say there's a word that isn't being talked about that you think is very important. What is it?
Race. I think, John, you know, without a doubt, when you look at the statistics, they are just stunning. About half of all the murders in the country are murders of black and Latino people. In fact, it's more than half. And you think about it, you know, black people are about 13% of the population. So what you're seeing here is disproportionate. And the question is, why is there so much of this violence? And it's black on black violence for the most part. And it's young black people killing young black people. And yet there's no discussion of this. You see it reflected in terms of poll numbers where you see blacks and Latinos overwhelmingly in favor of gun control. But then you go into the white community, and the white community is not as supportive. Well, the question becomes, why this disparate reaction to gun control? And I think part of it is what you see in terms of the tremendous presence of violence and killing going on in black America. I saw some statistics that are cited in the Wall Street Journal piece that said if you look since 1979, there are more black people who have been killed in this country than were killed during all the years of lynching, you know, legal lynching in this country. So that tells you how sick and sad our current circumstance is. This is a generational crisis.
Let me read some more statistics, and they're your own words, so you can just sit back and relax. You wrote almost 50 years ago, when the 1964 Civil Rights Act was passed, the national out-of-wedlock birth rate was 7%. Today, it is over 40%. According to the CDC, the out-of-wedlock birth rate for white children was just 2% in the 1960s. Today, it is 30%. Among black children, the out-of-wedlock birth rate has skyrocketed from 20% in the 60s to a heartbreaking 72% today. The Hispanic out-of-wedlock rate, which has been measured for a much shorter period, was below 40% in 1990 and stands at more than 50% as of the 2010 census. Now, Juan, you're an avowed liberal. You sound an awful lot in those pronouncements like a black conservative who's been getting some attention recently. Dr. Ben Carson, Megyn Kelly talked to him yesterday. He said the breakdown of the family in the inner city is a big part of our nation's problems today. Listen.
We need our president, but we need everybody to focus on it, because we need to recognize as a society, for every one of those young people that we keep from going down that path of self-destruction, that's one less person we have to be afraid of, protect our families from, one less person we have to pay for in the penal system or the welfare system, one more tax-paying productive member of society.
Is it possible, Juan, that you and Dr. Carson are sort of saying the same thing?
Oh, I'm definitely saying the same thing there, John. You know, I wrote a book called Enough about just this issue. I think people aren't honest about it. When you look at that out-of-wedlock birth rate, it directly ties into the gun issue, because when you look at the high rate of slaughter, murders, homicides committed with guns in the black community, you've got to ask yourself, why do young black people find status and power in the gun? And I think it's tied to the absence of fathers. I think it's tied to family breakdown. We know that when children come from single-parent families, they have higher poverty rates, more social problems, higher dropout rates. This is not me making it up. I'm not on some pulpit. Dr. Carson's not on some pulpit. We're simply pointing out the facts, John, and saying, why is it that everybody, and again, I'm a gun control supporter. You say I'm a liberal. I don't know how liberal I am, but I'm a gun control supporter without a doubt. But why is it that people want to talk about the size of magazines or assault weapons and not talk about something that's going to have far more impact than any new law, which is, can we fix the family situation, get these kids into a situation where there's a father and a mother and a community structure to support them, so that they don't automatically think that the biggest thing in their life is having a gun and settling a dispute you know, by shooting somebody or getting involved with drugs and shooting people over gang and drug turf.
But
that's what's going on.
Let me pivot slightly to a sort of related issue. Juan, that's why so many hundreds of conservatives are lined up outside the Supreme Court right now, you know, trying to defend traditional marriage because they say marriage is an important building block to the society.
I don't have any doubt about it. I mean, to me, it is the essential building block. You know, on a personal level, you know, I was raised by a single mom for a long time. My dad came back into the picture, but, you know, to me, the idea of family is absolutely essential to who I am, John. I mean, you know, someone, and you hear this from Dr. Carson, the mother saying education's everything, giving you values in terms of hard work. You earn what you get, you know, and don't make excuses. This, to me, is so essential, and it comes from family. It's not going to come from your peers, and it's not going to come from gangster rap that, you know, makes heroes out of people who have guns and shoot and kill and end up in jail and make going to jail for a black man into some kind of rite of passage. This is sick, dysfunctional thinking, but it is too common today, especially in our minority and youth communities, and I think people have to stand up and speak against it, and that's why I say, for all the talk about gun control and this type of gun control and background check, look, some of it's good, but the reality is you've got to start with the heart of the problem. The heart of the problem right now is the carnage that we see in the black and Latino community, especially among our young people. Number one cause of death, black and Latino men between 15 and 34, homicide by gun, John.
And if you think you're saying that if that kind of carnage were occurring in the white community, this gun debate would be a very different thing right now.
Well, I think so. I mean, obviously what we saw in Newtown is a white young man attack mostly white children. And so that had a tremendous effect on the country. But what you see is that President Obama was able to react to that event, whites, a white young man killing white young children. But he didn't react to what's going on in Chicago, where on a daily basis, I think the president said himself, every 4 days there's an equivalent of a Newtown in his hometown of Chicago. But he was unable to speak to it because it was too politically explosive when you just speak about what's going on there. Yeah. And I think people shy away from the racial angle of this gun debate, and I think it ill serves us in terms of understanding what's going on in our country and who's at risk.
And even some minority leaders have shouted down those who are making your points. People should read your column in today's Wall Street Journal for more information on that. Juan Williams, good to have you on. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, John.
A great read and a great conversation.
It really was.
A lot of ground to cover there. We'll continue that, of course.